Will Gluck directing, an inventive concept, and Monica Barbaro and Callum Turner as the main stars. Welcome to A Real Authority. Yeah, One Night Only basically had that going for it, and it won me over because obviously I am a major rom-com fan, and this is the first theatrical rom-com in, well, a few months, but it feels like there's a dearth of theatrically released rom-coms. They mostly live on streaming these days, so obviously I'm going to support it, but also Will Gluck is pretty much a director who basically understands the rom-com, so I kind of had little doubt that this would also be a pretty charming rom-com. So I'm going to try to keep it simple and sweet. It's literally storming outside, so if you hear storms, that's why. I don't know if it'll pick up in the microphone. Whatever, we're going to try to make it simple and sweet. Let's go. This movie takes place in a world where premarital sex is illegal aside from one night each year. And so we follow Owen and Allie, played by Callum Turner and Monica Barbaro, as they try to navigate their way through this night. Understanding that the night isn't exactly about romance, the most unromantic night of the year, but they still want romance, and when the two paths cross, each wonder whether or not a relationship between the two could work. Starting off with the positives, I feel like rom-coms usually rest on the shoulders of the two co-leads, because if they don't have magnetic chemistry or they're just miscast, it could really hamper the movie. But I felt like Callum Turner and Monica Barbaro as Owen and Allie just have such good chemistry together, and they imbue their characters with the right amount of energy and charisma. It makes it so that, given the ridiculous situation and the amount of ridiculous stuff that goes on in this movie, they just make it work. And also, they're both two rising stars that have had chances to shine in other stuff, but in this rom-com format, it just gives them the opportunity to be charming throughout the entire runtime, and I gotta say, they do a great job. These two are rising stars, so obviously I'm gonna keep an eye on whatever they do next, because they are just so great in here. It's no surprise that Will Gluck's directing is solid. Like, I do feel I hinted at that at the start of the video, because he just gets the rom-com. Like, say what you will about Easy A and Anyone But You, it clearly shows that Gluck understands how to make a rom-com work and how to develop the characters as well as just the narrative in such an organic way. And I know that Easy A may not exactly be a rom-com, but it definitely has rom-com flavors. Of course, Anyone But You was the surprise of like 3 years ago, and I did see it. I couldn't help but smile throughout the entire runtime. And I feel like here I was also smiling a lot of the time because the two main stars, like Anyone But You, are just so good, and I felt like Gluck directed them pretty well, but also just the overall concept, although that can also be attributed to Travis Braun's screenplay. Like, it's so inventive, and I also have to appreciate how well they executed it, because it's so easy to see the potential of this concept, like in a situation in which everybody's just trying to move to have sex, two people taking it slow and maybe they get together. Like, I felt like that was an interesting concept, and it's executed pretty well by Braun, even though all the ideas that it tries to develop aren't exactly explored in the best way. I'll get to that in a minute, but it's a rom-com. You obviously want your rom-coms over, well, a lot of other stuff, so it's not that big of a bother, but it also just leaves you curious to see if this relationship does work, especially in a situation in which, I mean, maybe relationships happen, but maybe they won't. It's just one night stands, ironically. But it leaves you curious enough to see how the narrative develops. Also, the cinematography is great. Like, I feel like since they shot in New York, the bright city lights, especially in the nighttime, just look beautiful in general. But Torin Orbach's cinematography just looks great and enhances the nighttime feel of it. I don't know why, but for some reason, like whenever it's dark outside and the lights are up, it's kind of cool to me. I'm not just talking about New York. I don't know, dude. It's just this weird sensation about the night. As crazy as it is to say, and I do feel Orbach did a great job at emulating that, but also enhancing the romantic bits when they kick in. Este Haim and Christopher Stracey's score, like, I'm not sure if it's the songs they included or the swelling of orchestral-like music, but they did a great job in terms of making this situation, well, I guess more romantic, because this is a rom-com and they sell that completely well. On top of the well-developed romance, the comedy is there. It just keeps coming and you're honestly into it. Even if a joke doesn't work on paper, the cast just sell it to a point where you can't help but laugh. And at 1 hour and 42 minutes, the pacing feels like it just goes by, and there's no moments that feel like they're wasteful. With that said, I don't want to get overtly critical, because I do feel with a movie like this, especially as a rom-com fan, it's kind of hard not to be endeared by the movie itself, unless it's just weak in general. Like, I've seen my fair share of weak rom-coms, and One Night Only is by no means one of them. But I do feel what this movie promises it does deliver in, but it shows inklings of a bigger exploration. Like, this concept isn't just means to get Owen and Allie together, but it's trying to also commentate on, like, what if a situation like this actually happened, and how that would affect people's lives in a way. Because they explain how there are laws that basically dictate whether or not people go to jail. Mild spoilers, but they have this thing on their arms that's kind of like sci-fi-ish, kind of like In Time, in which you have bars, in which if your bars run out, you die, but instead it's like some sort of symbol a la John Wick. When it turns red, it's basically the rest of the year. When it turns green, you're basically allowed to have sex on that night. And law dictates that you need to wear a condom if you're not married. And obviously, that is a very intriguing concept that they don't exactly explore. They have moments in which, yeah, that plot point is there, but it's not entirely there. It's kind of pushed to the side. Again, I have no problem with it, but I'm just saying that the movie kind of indicates that it may explore that theme more. But I'm glad that they didn't, in a way, because obviously the rom-com fan in me was just having a great time with the main two characters. One thing, though, that may be a deal breaker, let's see how I feel after I mention this. I'm going to be vague. A lot of the times I notice rom-coms leaning into cliches in a way that's not exactly executed the best. Although I will say this movie does shy away from doing those, and I'm honestly grateful for that. Anyone But You was this close to being a 10 out of 10, but then the third act cliche came in, and I was kind of just like, oh no, this close to being a masterpiece, Anyone But You. Again, not in here. There's this one scene, however, that I kind of just do not get why it's here. Like, I get it, 1 hour and 42 minutes, the runtime won't fill itself, but it did such a great job at filling the rest of the movie. But one scene threatens to break in. It revolves around one of the main characters just making a decision that kind of goes against their character in a way, but also something that was clearly made obvious previously. I guess they forgot. And I don't know, it was just weird. It doesn't exactly ruin the vibe of the movie and doesn't exactly threaten, like, the main relationship they're trying to develop. But yeah, that scene was just out of nowhere, and it's probably one of the most out of nowhere scenes in a movie this strong this year. Because yeah, One Night Only, I loved it. It's Will Gluck showing that the rom-com genre isn't dead. It's unfortunate that it's releasing the weekend after Spider-Man Brand New Day, because obviously the box office chances compared to that are very, very low. I'm just being realistic. But if you're a rom-com fan and a fan of a lot of the crew behind this movie, like Monica Barbaro and Callum Turner, had me interested alone. You're absolutely going to have a great time with this. It's funny, it's fun, beautifully shot, wonderfully directed. Flaws aside, the rom-com fan of me just couldn't help but eat it up because this movie was a delectable feast. It might be one of the best movies of the year by virtue of that, even though other movies are technically stronger. Even if it doesn't make the list, doesn't change the fact that the Real Authority approves. 10 out of 10. Whatever Will Gluck, Monica Barbaro, and Callum Turner do next, I'm seated. Make sure you leave a like, subscribe to the channel, turn on post notifications, comment your thoughts on the movie, and let me know, well, what your favorite rom-com is an obvious question. What's your favorite Will Gluck film? Is it Easy A, Anyone But You, One Night Only, or something else? Let me know in the comments below. Alright, peace.